What is the meaning of my life? That's a question that we've all asked ourselves at one point. I would imagine that most of us find ourselves asking that question quite often. Do I have a purpose? What is my purpose? Why am I here? Humans are constantly striving towards the acquisition or identification with meaning and significance. It seems to be an inherent thing in human nature that urges the individual to define meaning in their lives. And I hope in this video that I can give an answer to what the meaning of our lives is. The modern view of what the meaning of life is kind of discouraging. Many people believe that humans evolved over the course of about 6 million years, and the human brain developed to help us survive. That belief alone creates several outputs. First of all, if that's true, and humans are just another animal, then our primary goal is simply to survive. I think we can all agree survival is something we all strive for. I don't think anyone wants to die. However, if the purpose of your life is to prolong it, you will always fail. Eventually, no matter how hard you try to avoid it, you are going to die. If the only thing you're living for is a prolonged life, is it really a life worth living? Secondly, if humans evolved and the universe was created by the Big Bang, then that means God doesn't exist and there's no afterlife. If this is true, everything we experience in our life and everything we achieve is in vain, because one day we will die and it will all go away. This means that our lives are meaningless. If our lives end and everything fades away, what was the point? Existentialists believe that our lives have no inherent meaning or purpose, but rather it is the purpose we create for ourselves that gives them a sense of meaning. Essentially, they believe life is meaningless, but that this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Soren Kierkegaard proposed that each individual, not society or religion, is solely responsible for giving meaning to life and living it passionately and sincerely, or authentically. Absurdists also believe that life is meaningless, but that humans have an inability to find meaning. According to Albert Camus, when the desire to find meaning and the lack of meaning collide, this is when the absurd is highlighted. Existentialism, absurdism, and nihilism have been criticized because they undermine ethics by suggesting there is no objective truth and that therefore there is no objective reality. Personally, my big issue with these philosophies is that whether you have given your life a meaning or accepted that your life has no meaning, you can never be fulfilled or satisfied. If you believe that your life has no meaning, that's not going to give you happiness or contentment. If you try to attribute meaning to your life in some way, that will never fulfill you either. When people believe their life has no meaning, they try to fulfill themselves with career goals and success, power, self-esteem, money, sex, and/or drugs. This is called the pleasure principle, the instinctive seeking of pleasure and avoiding of pain to satisfy biological and psychological needs. They make something their idol, whether it be their body, their status, or some passion. It's never enough, and ultimately, it leaves people feeling empty. Let's say you decide that your life purpose is to be an artist. No matter how great of an art piece you make, it will never be good enough for you. It will bring you only a temporary happiness. You would only feel happiness when you're performing your art. It's like if you won a Grammy. That would be such an amazing and monumental moment in your life. But after you've won 20 Grammys, it really doesn't mean all that much to you anymore. Take Michael Jordan, who is one of my heroes. He won 6 NBA Finals, and yet he wasn't fulfilled. He returned to basketball in 2000 with the Washington Wizards, despite many believing his shot to win his 6th championship was the perfect storybook ending to his career. He had achieved so much, and yet he wasn't satisfied. We can try to fulfill ourselves with the things this world has to offer, but it will never be enough. I want you to be honest with yourself. Do you really want to believe that your life is meaningless? If life is meaningless, it would not matter at all if you died. If life is meaningless, there is no objective morality, and all the terrible things that people have done throughout history can be justified. If life is meaningless, you are only living your life for a temporary pleasure that will ultimately leave you feeling dissatisfied. Don't you think there's more to your life than that? Therefore, I would like to argue the existence of God. I know that by my saying that, it immediately turned many of you away, but I hope that you will all keep an open mind. I want you to just take a second to think about this. Does it really make sense that there was nothing in the universe, and then all of a sudden, the Big Bang happened? The law of cause and effect is the foundation of the scientific method. If you look at the world around us, nothing happens without a cause. If there was nothing in the universe, what would have caused the Big Bang? Something doesn't come from nothing. Furthermore, the second law of thermodynamics tells us that everything breaks down over time. The theory of evolution is the one concept where things build up over time. According to the second law of thermodynamics, it should be impossible. Not to mention, evolutionists never have a good explanation for how things evolved other than it happened over the course of millions of years. If you're a single-celled organism, how does your DNA get pushed to develop tissue, organs, organ systems? Why would it need those things if the single-celled organism is getting along just fine? The eye is so incredibly complex, and all they can say is that it must have somehow evolved over the course of millions of years. How would the body possibly know how to develop eyes? I can't 100% disprove the Big Bang Theory or the theory of evolution, but there are some significant holes in the arguments that people make for them that no one really talks about. I believe that God, who is all-powerful and has always existed, created the universe. The existence of God gives us a purpose, to surrender our lives to Him. I think a lot of people hate the idea of God because it means they have to give up control of their own lives. We naturally want to do whatever we want to do. That's why some people get so offended when you bring up religion. They don't want to lose control. But God's love for us, sending His Son Jesus to die as a sacrifice for all our wrongdoings, compels us to love Him back and to want to surrender our lives to Him willingly. Faith in Christ is the only way to heaven, and through God, everything that we do in our lives is not in vain. With an afterlife, our experiences and accomplishments on earth have a purpose. Not to mention, an afterlife gives us hope and something to look forward to after death. Belief in God also solves the problem of morality. Without God, there is no objective morality. If there isn't a perfect, omniscient being to define what is good and what is bad, then morality is subjective. Why is that important? For example, let's say an innocent person is killed for no reason. I hope we can all agree that this person's murder would be wrong. But let's say 100 years from now, the majority of people say that it was right. So who's correct? If morality is subjective, then no one is. But with an objective morality, we can know despite what the people 100 years from now say, that we are right. I know that everything I just said is a lot to wrap your head around. That is truly what I believe the purpose of my life is. You don't have to agree with it, but I hope that you take some time to consider the existence of God. That being said, I want to leave you with something. Your life is important, and it has a purpose. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.